He got hit with so many typicallys and uniques.
Well, that's unique. We don't really see that very much.
Yeah, typical or unique. Aiden was unique today, or there was
Right.
something typical today.
Oh, yes, that is very typical. We see it all the time.
Oh, don't worry about it. That's typical.
Oh, every child is unique, so we can't say what is typical.
That's typical. See you later.
We call it the typical unique conversation. Welcome back to Typically Unique. I'm Kim Aponte, and I'm here with my husband, Carlos.
Hello.
And we are starting a new series with a new topic on mental health. We're not sure how many parts this will be, but we've been talking about this for a while. It's very important to us. And in this first episode, we just want to explain why.
Right. And part of the reason why is this mental health system, mental health in general, really provided some positives, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll start off with the positives. It really provided some positives to us. This was, I think mental health today is a lot different than what it was, 30, 40 years ago. I think there's more knowledge about diagnosing different types of mental health. I think there's different buckets so people can get different types of care within mental health. I think the tools available to us are much better than what they used to be, again, 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Yes.
And if you are a willing participant, I think you can see change. I think went into this, many things in the mental health spectrum, and I was a very willing participant. I'm still a very willing participant, and I've seen, some growth in myself, throughout the years. If you are willing to listen and implement a lot of the things that they talk about.
Yeah, not just go through the motions.
Right. You have to
really do the work and, yeah.
Yes. And it's, sometimes you're like, do I want to? But you can really see change. It's a very tangible thing. And if you're a willing participant, it can be very beneficial. I also would say, and we saw some of those results,
Oh, yeah.
and there are areas where we saw results, areas where we didn't see results, areas where we, fought a little bit of the system, but there were a lot of areas where people and some of those systems, some of those tools were very beneficial. I know we talked, with the cancer and everything, that we had a Dr. Green that kind of showed up, and truly our belief has saved our son's life. I think there's a couple Dr. Greens, like that. Not all were doctors, but there were some heroes, I think we called them, in the past that showed up at certain times when...
Yeah, those special people that showed up at the right moment with the right information or advocating for us or whatever it was, but it just always seemed serendipitous.
It did,
and
at
the
right
same,
time.
Yeah, the same happened for us with this journey too.
Yeah, and I think the last thing is this is something that, like with the cancer stuff, we didn't have much homework, right? There wasn't anything that we could do to kind of help Aiden on the journey. I mean, we could be care providers, but we couldn't do anything to really help cure him. With mental health, there are a lot of resources out there that are free, on YouTube and that you could just look up if you're having a session and, your counselor or somebody, mentions a strategy or a tool. You could dive deep into that, and Kim's great at this.
There are so many
yeah.
experts, licensed, professional experts that have their own shows on YouTube that you can listen to, life coaches. You can get really good information on there.
So, as we look forward to this journey, which is going to be a very long one, there are some positives peppered in here, and we hope to share a lot of those stories. Unfortunately, we saw a lot of resistance too, and
yeah.
What was that?
Well, my driving force, unfortunately, for wanting to share this because it's not easy to share this. And we just kind of predicted there would probably be a lot of questions, of why would we want to, air all of this. But there were some pretty bad experiences that we had that I felt we need to shed light on that and start looking at that. And, awareness is always the first step. So there might not be anything we can directly do to fix those things, but we're at least going to point them out because we feel like they were experiences that no one could possibly ever know. It's one of those things where, unless it happens to you, unless you find yourself in that same exact situation. So some of the things were, when you find yourself needing more than maybe just counseling, maybe more than just more than just talk therapy for, once every couple weeks or whatever, it can be extremely hard to find a facility, to find a place. You'll often hear people, in interviews or, wherever you might listen to somebody talk about it, say, well, they didn't have a bed. That it could be like that, or finding the right kind of facility that you might need. So that was a really big challenge.
And not to interrupt, but one of the things is, like to find a bed, but this isn't like you broke your arm and you have to go to the emergency room and they're going to put a cast on. I think our medical system is capable and equipped to handle that. But when you're talking mental health, I'm not sure if our medical systems are set up.
They're not.
To fix broken minds.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
It's that's the way we describe it, is that our medical system is set up for physical ailments for your body. Your brain is a physical part, but your mind and feelings and emotions and those things, the system just doesn't seem. They seem they're two separate systems and not designed to help in the same way.
Right.
Insurance, being involved in the mental health, I feel like they have a lot of power. They have a lot of say, and so that. We'll get into all the details about all of that.
And plus with insurance, right, if you can't see it, right, how can you code it? How can you say, well, this person needs a month and this, everything was restrictive, for us, 7 days. After 7 days, that's it. You don't get anything else. So,
no matter what.
It's
just a blanket, no matter what your condition is, severe and not severe, same.
Yep.
Same, expectations or rules about that. So, and that kind of connects to my biggest pet peeve was there isn't consistent, systematic testing to get correct, accurate diagnosis. Like you can get an X-ray for a broken arm and see, yes, you have a broken arm, but it seemed it's mostly with mental health, just observation, listening to words. You're not doing blood tests. You're not doing scans. And
which you used to ask for all the time. Give me a scan. I want a scan.
Yeah, and the answer is always no, because insurance probably doesn't want to cover for it, or that's just not our standard operating procedure. That's not what we do.
Or we can't diagnose from a scan. You can, have some lights going off in there, but it isn't going to accurately tell you something. So observation is...
That was very frustrating to me, though, because I always want answers. What's the answer? And the hard evidence to show that that's the answer.
Right.
And it was just a hard system to navigate, especially if you have questions or you're looking for more. Where do you turn to? Where do you go? Even some of the places where I thought would be the go-to places to turn to didn't really have any answers, couldn't help. It just seemed like the runaround a lot of times. So those are some of the, highlights of things we dealt with, and we have stories to go with all of these things.
Well, I think one other thing that we talked about before was, because we talked about the broken arm, right? That they will fix and cast your broken arm. But in the mental health arena, it's more about stabilizing. We'll try to stabilize you or your family for a period of time, but we're not going to stick this out until you are fixed, and fixed is, in air quotes. But that's frustrating because we want to get this fixed.
Especially when you're in such a dire situation that hospitalization in a mental facility is required. You want that fixed or diagnosed and treated, long term. We're going to treat this so that there isn't a reoccurrence. And that's not really the goal when you go to a place like that. It's just, we're going to get you out of this immediate crisis situation, and that's it. Then our job is done. Yeah, and there's big gaps that need to be filled.
Well, and I guess I'll say to that is, so understanding all of those perils within the system and the stigma in society that goes along with mental health, and has for a very long time. I think recently in the past few years, I think more people have been, trying to normalize mental health.
By talking about it.
Right,
you have to talk about it and put faces to it. Yeah.
But there was a big stigma to mental health. I still think there is some today. You don't want to be called weak, and you don't want to be called soft. So it pushes,
or have issues.
Yeah, but it pushes people away from really trying to get the help that they need. And if we could, tweak the systems a little bit, there is help available, hopefully long term, which I think is really needed. I think they got the short term stuff understood, but I think there's really needs some long term help here. And I think people are starting to get past some of the stigma.
And help can be a very serious situation that you need help with, or help can be, I just want to improve on some areas that might be causing roadblocks in my life or hindering some relationships I have or things like that.
Well, and we're not too proud at this point in our life. We're not too proud to say, maybe share some of this and, try to help end that stigma because, I think both of us have realized going through this system, other people have probably experienced some of the same thing. We wanted to share, as a reminder, this is our memoir. We want to share a lot of things that we've went through, for our kids and maybe grandkids one day, that they could look back and try to understand and piece together. My childhood was chaotic. What was all the chaos and what happened when I had to go to a babysitter or grandparents and mom and dad were somewhere, or mom and dad and Aiden were somewhere, or mom and dad and Carly were somewhere. What was going on? We're telling these stories, and I'm personally not too proud, and I don't care about the stigma. It doesn't bother me one iota. I know that wasn't your thought always.
No, it's still not easto for me because I care too much what people think. That's one of the things I'm working on right now. You have to laugh about things when you can.
Recognition is part of the first step, right?
Yeah, but I'm willing to because it's so important.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm kind of a big advocate for the mental health system, and I was even before we entered into it. And we're going to share how we kind of entered into the mental health,
Well, so the reason why I had such a hard time is because I have loved ones and people that are close to me that I've heard those kinds of comments from, like, oh, that person's got issues, or I don't know. It's just always been negative comments, or I don't have any problems, I don't need that, and I just always knew that it was looked down upon. So
and we throw, not saying your loved ones did this or mine, but I think in society we throw around the terminology, oh, they're crazy. Right.
Yeah.
They're crazy, so, it is attached to kind of a demeaning word or phrase. And when you are saying, hey, I need to succumb to some of these feelings and get help, it's like, well, what's wrong with you? Toughen up, that sort of stuff. And I personally know that, early on, well, at some point in our marriage, Kim and I, we had some small confrontations, just like any couple would have, even before the, Aiden incident. But, we would have some arguments and we would get through them. It was no big thing. There was some things that was just systemic, that just kept happening over and over. And I would try to communicate those things, and, we'd make up. It would be cool. 2 days later, we'd kind of be back at the same spot again, to the point where some of this stuff was like super frustrating.
And it doesn't mean fighting.
No, just arguing.
It means
disagreeing.
Maybe he's having feelings one way that I don't know about, and maybe I'm having feelings that he doesn't know about. And it makes you act certain ways. And then when you start acting those ways, it probably doubles down on those. So it's that kind of a situation.
Right.
Not that, it was fighting all the time.
No.
It wasn't that.
No, and it was, I think at the end of the day, you want to be loved and appreciated, right? And we'll get into how we each receive that love, right? Because we learned that through counseling, But at the time, we didn't have a lot of those tools. I think one time early on, I bought a book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and we jokingly kind of read that a little bit, because, but so, we kind of tried some self-help stuff, just to understand each other a little bit better. But there was a point where I was really kind of getting frustrated, and I got a pamphlet from work where you get like 3 or 5 free sessions, right? If you call these people up and,
For counseling,
and I said, hey, we need to go to counseling. And, brashly, I just kind of threw it at her like, hey, we need to go to counseling. And I think she either threw it back or ripped it up or something, but it wasn't happening at that time. But that was kind of a recurring thing for a little while until we kind of really hit a watershed moment. But, I think I didn't understand it, but I wanted to do it because I thought, hey, I'm not able to communicate with Kim to work through this. And then after she kind of pushed back on that pretty hard, in understanding why she pushed back on it, I thought, well, I can do this, right? At the core, we love each other. We are into each other, and we've made a commitment to each other. So I can do it. I can fix this. We can fix this, and we'll just find a way to do that, right? So
yeah, because it's not like we sat down and had a nice long conversation explaining both of our sides and hearing both of each other. It was just passing in the wind. Here, we should do this. I, looked at it, went on with whatever I was doing in the moment, and that was it. And you were probably still focused on it. Right. I probably forgot about it.
Right.
And then... yeah.
Because I would bring it up a couple years later, right? And be like, hey, I've asked you, I said, hey, we need to go to counseling, and I said, this is getting ridiculous or something, I would say something harsh in the moment, this is ridiculous. We need to go to counseling. She's like, well, this is the first time I'm hearing of counseling. I'm like, I threw a pamphlet at you 2 years ago, and we'd be like, well, and to her point, it's not like we sat down and had a great conversation about it. It was just tossing of a pamphlet, or in the middle of an argument, we should be going to counseling. And, and my frustration was she didn't want that outside help, to fix us. And then that made me feel a certain way, like, why doesn't she want to fix us?
And I was probably like, we don't need fix.
Exactly.
We just had two different,
perspectives
know.
on it.
But, we're going to be starting on our next episode, our story and how we got into counseling for us, because we're going to end up finding out the hard way. You know, he thought, well, we'll just continue trying things on our own. We'll just try it on our own, you know, and we had just gotten out of the medical trauma with Aiden, so we're back at home, not in the hospital anymore. He's better, he's healing. We're back to our normal lives, back into our routine. That was going on. And then, you know, having that PTSD from that experience. Once we started getting back into our normal lives, I feel like it was just, oh my gosh, just so thankful to just not be in that hospital, that we kind of just, and we're probably used to doing our own things because we were separate for 2 years. I don't know. So we were kind of in our own worlds, doing our own things, you know, a lot of isolation that way. And all of us, our kids, us.
Yep.
Not that we didn't ever do things together, but, you know, our focuses weren't where they should have been. Our communication wasn't where it should have been. And we didn't get help. You know, we just came home after all of that. And before Aiden getting sick, and this, we told the pamphlet story because there were already some things brewing. Right. You know, there's already stuff brewing. Then we go through 2 years, you know, of the stress and trauma and the separation between the two of us, caring for him in the hospital. And then it is just, and we just weren't showing up for each other the way that we should have once we were back at home, getting back to normal, and it's all gonna blow up in a big event.
And I guess on my side, you know, everything that Kim just said, right? Everything that she's talking about, you know, during that time when Aiden was home, it wasn't like he was home free. We still did do a lot. You know, he was at home. We had to, you know, be careful about him being out in public. So there was always that thing. I made a joke, you know, a few episodes ago about if Aiden would cough, Kim would dive across the room to see if he was okay.
There was still a lot of stress for me.
Oh my God!
Like I had to give him shots for his blood clots, and like my reactions to that. Like I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of anger over that stuff. Like I didn't want to do it. I was tired of it. Like one more thing. Oh my God!
Right.
You know. So there was a lot going on.
Yeah, there was a lot going on with that, and there was also, you know, like Kim mentioned, we kind of fell into our own lanes. You know, I think I was racing. You know, so I was gone on the weekends. You know, she didn't kind of like that activity, so I would do that by myself. You know, she got into, you know, childhood cancer and, you know.
A lot of causes. Like I was trying to be an advocate or something.
Yeah, and but it's in your blood,
it is.
You know, and I think we just needed to find a way for me to do racing and you to do your advocacy work where we were inclusive of each other. You know, instead we went kind of a couple different lanes, and I don't think we ever really connected. So small things would start to build, right? You know, small things that, you know, hey, I haven't, you know, felt, you know, appreciated in 2 years because you've been focusing on Aiden. So now it's enhanced because we don't have to worry that we're not in the hospital and separate. I should be getting, you know, waterfalls of appreciation. You know, I should be filling her love bucket in the ways that she needed me to do that. And I don't think either of us showed up.
We weren't doing that.
Yeah. And so, you know, this big event, you know, and we'll get into it on the next episode, but essentially what happened to kind of set it up and what led us into counseling was, I think I was of a particular mindset of I had been trying some things. Kim wasn't really seeing that, I don't think, in the moment.
No.
And so I think I was going to try to have a conversation with Kim, and it went south. And, you know, what I think I wanted to say and what I actually said and what happened was,
tragic
yes,
in the moment, but led us on this path into this system, into the mental health system, to get help, to get counseling, and eventually we had all these experiences and why we are motivated to talk about this. So,
and I'll finish by saying this. You know, you said it at the beginning. I'm not proud of everything that we're going to talk about going forward. I have regrets. I think I pay penance, you know, personally. You know, it hurts me that I've hurt Kim. It hurts me that I hurt our family, you know, immediate and extended. You know, so all of this is difficult to say and talk about, but where we're going, this is just the literal tip of the iceberg for us to get into this system, because what we end up using this system for and how it turns on us to come is needed, but tragic, to use tragic again, disappointing. And I think if you stick with us on this journey and, you know, reach out to us, tell us if any of this makes sense to you, because I think there is a great opportunity here for some type of change if enough of us can get together, you know, and really advocate for some changes in the mental health system.
or to just help people navigate the system.
Or just navigate
what to
it,
do. Yeah,
right.
yeah. So we are going to tell that specific story on our next episode, and how, you know, we were the first ones in our family to enter into counseling, and then how it evolves from that. So we hope you will join us back for that on our next episode, and we will see you then. Bye.
Bye.